Okay, so yes, I'm Emma Dunton. I'm a producer at 1418 now. Let me get my thing ready. Okay. And we are an organisation that will only exists between 2014 and 2018, and we're here to essentially commemorate World War One. Through commissioning new art, which responds to that. Commissioning new art is across all art forms, so theatre, dance, music, poetry, digital, and mass participation events, which is the project I'm going to talk about today. We decided to focus on three key moments in the commemoration of World War I. So the start of the war, so our programme in 2014 was in and around the 4th of August. And then last year, which is the middle of the war, with a particular focus on the Battle of Somme. And then our next programme, or sort of focus of programme, will be around the armistice, so autumn 2018. And then after that, we no longer exist. But it's it's a very interesting and unusual programme to work for, and I think quite unique. I don't think there are many other programmes like that around. So I'm going to specifically talk about a project that we commissioned last year. We're here because we're here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what the project actually contained, what it actually was, what it did, and then also how we did it to a certain extent, and then also what I know is of particular interest to you guys, which is how the public responded and how we kind of engineered that to a certain extent, but in other ways it was a complete and utter surprise. So just to say right from the bat, so I don't forget this, that this project was commissioned by 1418 now, and the director is Jenny Waldman. It was conceived by Jeremy Deller, the visual artist, with Rufus Norris, artistic director of the National Theatre. So Jeremy Deller, a visual artist, worked very closely with Rufus Norris, obviously a theatre director, and many others, but they were sort of at the heart of it. It was produced by Birmingham Rep and the National Theatre, so they were the key producers, but we worked with many other partners, of which there were 8 key hub partners, one of them including was Sheffield Crucible. And then we had, it was sort of like what they call a radial structure, so we had Sheffield, people like Sheffield Crucible then worked with other sub-hubs, so it kind of went out in a kind of radial sort of way. So what was the project? So on the 1st of July, which is, the 1st of July, 100 years since the first day of the Battle of Somme, people all over the United Kingdom, from Plymouth to Belfast, from Swansea to Shetland Islands, and really literally also in Northern Ireland, across all countries, experienced this unusual phenomena, which was the 1,400 soldiers wearing authentic World War I uniforms appearing unannounced in public spaces at railway stations, bus stops and shopping centres. It was, I'll talk a little bit in a moment about the kind of secrecy behind this project, which was quite a feat, basically, trying to keep the whole project a secret. But it was completely unannounced. Nobody knew that this was going to happen except for the people who knew it was going to happen, which included people like the BBC. So that's quite an interesting one. What I'm going to do is just keep flicking through some of the photographs in between talking. So the idea behind this was basically Jenny Waldman, our director, went to Jeremy Deller and said, we want to commemorate this extraordinary battle, and which was the bloodiest day in British military history. Over 19,000 men were killed on that day and a further 40,000 injured. And we wanted to commission Jeremy to think of an idea which would directly engage with the public with regards to what had happened. And we wanted it to be something, that the way that Jenny approached it with Jeremy was to say, just think completely what would you like to see happen? What do you think would work? And there's no real rules there. Okay. I'll just show some of these photographs going through. So what Jeremy said was, I want to take this memorial to the public. I want to go out into the public, and I want them to come across these soldiers in just anywhere, in railway stations, in car parks, on the train, and I want them to be mystified by what they see. So the soldiers, we've created these journeys, and the soldiers moved around throughout the country, on foot, on trains, on the London Underground, in smaller and larger groups, converging at key times during the day. So there were 1,400 soldiers out there throughout the country, and they had very, very specific journeys that they were following. We know that we're going to be at this particular place at Waterloo Station at 7:30 in the morning, and then we're going to move around, and this group's going to split up, and we're going to go off. So logistically, it was just a massive, complex project. But it meant that the idea was that they were present throughout the whole day in lots and lots of different places and really unexpected places. And that they would also capture, they would be at key places when, like railway stations, when it was commuting time, etc. So that we reached as many of the public as possible. That was the idea. So the way that we communicated with the public, so the whole idea behind this was that Jeremy had said right from the start, and which everyone was a little bit, particularly in the theatre world, were a little bit sort of surprised by, was that he didn't want them to say anything. They're not to say anything at all. And when Rufus and Jeremy started working together, that was kind of like, oh gosh, how are we going to do this? So what are they going to do? So obviously we spent 2 years developing this project, and there were many different interesting ways that they approached this. But one of the things that was decided quite early on was that, because each soldier actually represented a soldier that had died on that day, 100 years before, that each soldier would have a card, and which would give the name, rank, regiment, and age of the soldier who died on that day, and they would give those out to the public. And so they're almost like a little business card. In fact, I've got a picture of one here. And as you can see, on that card, we had the hashtag #WeAreHere, which was absolutely crucial. That was the one thing that we had to slightly persuade the artists that we needed on there, and it was the one thing that really made it to sort of take off online. I'm trying to see if there's something else I was put to it. Yeah, so they had a nuance. So in terms of the actual performance itself, Jeremy really wanted to be completely unsentimental, and that they would sort of they would be in tableaus. They would create. They'd sit there. They'd look like they were waiting, basically, and then they'd walk around in sort of strange configurations, but nothing that was really completely clear. I think he said that the idea is that they don't know where they are, and people looking at them don't know where they're from, So, I'm just going to show some pictures here in Glasgow, London Waterloo. So they made uniforms that were made from scratch. Regiments were chosen to reflect the geographical spread of soldiers throughout the UK. That was really, really important to us, and the sense of that these soldiers came from all over the country. And one of the things that Jeremy and Rufus decided was that the soldiers in Sheffield, for example, weren't only going to be from a regiment in Sheffield; they were going to be from regiments, regiments from another part of the country, to get that sense of that this is a national thing that's happening. And the costumes were really detailed. This was the most expensive part of the project. Okay, so Jeremy Deller is a visual artist, and how they looked was absolutely had to be completely authentic. And we had them made from scratch. They had all the right props and there were smoking roll-ups, you know, they had the insignia. It was an enormous undertaking creating these costumes. So they didn't speak, but very occasionally, and it was choreographed, obviously, by the stage managers who were accompanying the groups sort of from afar. They would break into song. The song was "We're Here Because We're Here," which is sung to the tune of Auld Lang Syne. I'll play that for you later, which obviously everybody knows. But this is something that the soldiers did actually sing in the trenches during World War One. And the idea is that sense of soldiers waiting and the futility of the war. Okay, so it was a complete secret. So for 2 years we kept this, we called it Project Octagon. We didn't call it We're Here Because We're Here. So we had our code word, Project Octagon. When Octagon comes from obviously 8, and it was 8 hubs who were involved in the project. It was absolutely at the heart of the artistic vision that nobody would know why they were there. We weren't going to say, hey, we did this. Actually, throughout the whole day, nobody came forward to say, we're behind this. It wasn't until 6:30 in the evening when the BBC had the exclusive right to reveal that this was a Jeremy Deller project working with, you know, over 30 organisations throughout the country and what it was about. So in terms of the sort of, from our marketeers and our marketing departments and all the comms people throughout the country in every single one of the hubs, this was quite a sort of unusual undertaking. Because what we did want was, even though it was a secret throughout that whole day, we did want to help. We wanted to be in the background and help trigger any of the public response, if there was going to be any public response. We just didn't know, really. We thought the public would respond to this, but we didn't really know to what extent, and of course it completely and utterly overwhelmed us. So we were really pleased that we'd put in place this sort of structure of a social and media and PR campaign. And I can talk a little bit more about maybe in the discussion about how we put that in place. That's a picture in Belfast. I really like that picture. I love the way the woman's looking ahead. So the public response, well, as I said, it was absolutely overwhelming. I mean, it really, really took us by surprise. We were all complete nervous wrecks that day, standing waiting to see what was going to happen once the soldiers started flooding across the country at 7:30 in the morning. You know, it was a really eerie feeling at first, and we knew we had that hashtag. And then it immediately, I'd say maybe about half an hour in, once all the soldiers were out in all the different cities and also in the countryside as well, we started to see it take off on social media, and it really did take off in a way that we really took us by surprise. And also what was really sort of heartening and really exciting was that the public understood why they were there. They got it. They actually got the idea. They got it. And, you know, they weren't going, why are these soldiers on our streets? Is there a war? Or why are these? They're going, oh no, I get it. I've got the card. I relate that to you. I know, you know why you're here. You know, you're representing this soldier that died 100 years ago. So it was very, very exciting. And as you can see, Rufus Norris saying there that he hadn't envisaged that. He thinks Jeremy had envisaged that. I don't know if even Jeremy had, so it was just one of those things. I've put some extra pictures of Sheffield up there. Okay, so of course, the political context was completely charged that day. It was 1 week after Britain had voted to leave Europe. We didn't know that was going to be the case. That was a complete sort of coincidence. I mean, you know, this had been in the planning for 2 years. It was always going to be the 1st of July. 1st of July is the commemoration of the centenary, the beginning of the Battle of Somme. But I think that that absolutely contributed to probably how the public responded, because of course, you know, we had just voted to leave Europe, and here were representations of soldiers who'd fought during World War I, and that, you know, when Europe was at war. So it really triggered a lot of emotions on that front, and Jeremy was really, really taken with that. That's a quote from Jeremy. IKEA. Jeremy, we were very keen that this was going to happen in really sort of not your normal places at all. In fact, at one point, Jeremy said, I really would like it if you don't go past iconic buildings or iconic places, and just go to very, very ordinary, you know, places like the car park of IKEA. In fact, I think they went through IKEA, actually. They actually went in as a member of the public. Also, at the same time, out to really quite remote places like the Shetland Islands. On public transport. Okay, so this is actually a bit ahead of what I was going to say, but the next day we had fantastic news coverage. We didn't really know that was going to happen. We had, obviously our PR company had primed one or two journalists about this so that they would be ready to write about it, but we got the front cover of the FT, which was, we were really thrilled by that. It's not often the case. This is just an example of social media. Yes, so the hashtag soldiers at Waterloo Station this morning. Has anyone else seen them? And then there's the hashtag that sort of absolutely made it take off. Okay, so one thing I didn't mention is we had set up a website, and that website did go live at 7:30 on the 1st of July, 7:30 in the morning. But it didn't have anything there. It was sort of a blank website, and all it had was the hashtag "We Are Here." So, and what our clever comms people did was help to steer some of the social media that came online towards the website. So it started to be, I don't know what you call it, occupied. What do you call it? There's a comms speak for that when it starts to become filled up. Populated, that's the word I'm looking for. So, I mean, that's the website now, but it did start to populate in this way throughout the day, and we could see people, could see stuff coming on there, which was just really thrilling. Newcastle. Waterloo. You can see with these photographs that Jeremy is a visual artist, and you can see that the photography is just amazing. And this is just, you know, we didn't set this up. This just happened. Okay, so the statistics. It was witnessed live by 2 million people. You know, this is an art project. It was, you know, fantastic. We were just absolutely thrilled by this. It reached an additional 28 million through broadcast, print, and social media. The BBC, who were a partner, absolutely were key in bringing it to the attention of the public, and they kept it a secret. You know, they kept saying to us, well, what if something happens? You know, what if, you know, something happens to one of the soldiers, or, you know, we may have to say something. We're going to keep it a secret, but we always knew that if anything did go wrong, they may have to come out with what was going on, obviously, but nothing did. It only had a positive response throughout the country, and so they kept to their word and didn't announce what it was until 6:30 that evening. So in total, 63% of the UK adult population saw the art or were aware of the project. And when we say that, we don't mean they saw it live. Obviously, they saw it, either they noticed it on Twitter, or they you know, talked to someone about it, or whatever. It prompted 100,000 social media posts. It trended on Twitter for 14 hours, and it was at number 1 for 5 hours on Twitter, and had 34 million social media impressions internationally. So we had quite a big international response as well. So obviously, once things go online, then the global community realises it's happening. And this is just an outline of the structure. I mean, it's a very complex, logistically very complex, so, you know, too complex for me to go into here. But, you know, the basic outline was that Jenny and 1418 now commissioned it. Jeremy's concept, very simple concept, really, really simple. Soldiers, they're not going to say anything. They're on the streets, they're in authentic uniforms. we needed Rufus Norris to work with Jeremy to say, well, actually, because Jeremy Della is not a theatre practitioner, this is how you can make that happen. And that was, you know, at least 18 months in working that out. There was we set up a central lead team who were based actually at the National Theatre with lead producers, a lead costumes person, a lead stage management, lead participation leaders, and they all had their counterparts in each one of the hubs in the various with the partners. So including the associate directors who all worked to Rufus and Emily, and then we had the media partner, the BBC.